you don't have to not say sorry to be the leader of a house. I would actually argue that's like a great leader quality and maintaining it, but that's not what's going to get you respect. Saying, I'm your parent, do as I say, and I'm never wrong. That doesn't equate respect, because eventually they're going to become teens, and eventually their brain is going to develop enough that they're going to put things together.
Welcome to Notes to My Nervous System. Today we are joined by Dr. Julianne Monday. She's a licensed psychologist and parent coach who helps parents of sensitive and strong-willed children move from daily chaos to calm, connected relationships. I totally can use that myself with my very strong-willed children, who I am happy they're strong-willed. I just don't like when it's towards me. And she is the creator of Wired to Connect, a transformational parenting program built on 3 core pillars. And we're going to dive into all of that today and talk about reparenting and those 3 pillars and your nervous system and how to regulate when you as a parent are dysregulated. And all my listeners are used to me just jumping in. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to have this chat about the nervous system.
I love everything nervous system because it's at the core of how we connect and interact, and can we connect, right? And nothing is harder.
There's so much, I feel. Yeah.
And it's so
it's just stuff that we're like not taught, right? We're not taught these things. And then all of a sudden we're like, well, why am I losing it on him? Or why am I losing it on her? And then we have kind of that whole generational pattern thing. But I believe, probably like you do, it starts at the core of it is the nervous system.
Absolutely. And I think it is important to recognize that we were not taught how to regulate our nervous system. I wasn't even taught that I had one until I was in high school. No, in biology.
I think I was later. Yeah, exactly. Right. Like it was, and I think that is why I was led to make this program. I think there's wonderful parenting programs out there with techniques, right? And I think there's wonderful, even more so now, programs that talk about the brain science. However, what I found was there was a gap of how do you actually like reparent the adult, right? And how can they work with their triggers, and how do they work with understanding their fight or flight, or when they're in it, and the body sensations that let them know. Because I just found over and over, I'd have the same conversations with parents when they'd bring their kiddo in for therapy. And oftentimes the real work, a lot of the work is in the parent, right? And like how,
because you're the one who's supposedly got it all together, and you're an adult now, and suddenly you had a child. So all that knowledge is in your head, right?
That's what they think, right? But then, and like well-intended, they know what they want to do, how they want to approach it, but there's just that gap because we've never been taught it, right? I was not taught.
I just don't think it's fair to ourselves, right?
Exactly. And then we beat ourselves up, and the guilt, right? We're like, I promised myself I wouldn't be my mom. I promised myself I wouldn't yell anymore. But truthfully, like it's a lot of adults not knowing how to soothe themselves, how to regulate themselves. And so of course their child is struggling, right? Because that co-regulation is so dependent on the adult brain being calm and regulated.
Absolutely. How long have you been doing this, and what led you towards this particular path?
So I've been a psychologist for over 5 years, and what led me to this is because, like I said earlier a little bit, like I was just having the same conversations over and over. I'd have a parent bring their child in for usually emotional outbursts, right? Tantrums. Like I just don't, like they have big feelings and I don't understand it. And I think something's wrong, they would always kind of say. and spending time with the kiddo, right? Like nothing out of the norm, even getting more
Right.
information usually from the parent on like the
Mhm.
frequency and how long it took them to calm down. But
Mm.
eventually, when I could get the parents to sit in front of me, there would be this conversation about, hey, are your expectations realistic, right? Like to never have a tantrum is not realistic for your 5-year-old. It is super developmentally appropriate for them. And then furthermore, we would kind of look into like how were they approaching the dynamic when the kiddo was having a hard time. What did they feel coming into the room? What triggered them about that
Mhm.
down, right? Like what was that thing that like really takes them to an 8, 9, 10 in terms of dysregulation as the adult? And
Mhm.
so I just kept having these same conversations, and I was like, why, like this is such a disservice to parents to not have this information out there. And
Yeah.
then when I did a deeper dive into other programs a little bit, or I'd get information from parents who had taken other programs, they would often stop at like, hey, make sure you take care of your stuff and make sure like you calm down. But the parent didn't know how to calm down, right?
They
Like
didn't
that's
tell them the
the get.
how.
Yeah, it's kind of just like
Okay.
make sure you take care of your stuff, but here's all the kid techniques, right? But I'm a
Right.
believer the techniques mean nothing if you are not regulated coming in and
Yeah.
doing
If I scream at you, could you just be happy? What I mean, like I'm screaming, so the word happy means nothing.
nothing, right? And
Nothing.
what we know is like limbic resonance, right? Like the kiddo feels it off of the parent well before any words come out, right? And they're scanning all of the nonverbals and really assessing like, am I safe? And their nervous system is assessing that, right? And so it
Right.
just happens so quickly. And so
Mm.
that led me here. I was like, I want to make this program. I think it'd be really beneficial. I think it's comprehensive enough, um,
Mhm.
but not overwhelming, right? Like, I don't think
Mhm.
parents need to go to 4 years of grad school to learn this. I think trying to bring all that like fundamental information and skill work in one program. So I'm really proud of it. I've been working on it for over a year, truly, on just
Oh
taking
wow.
different like market research and conversations and which are the best strategies, which are the most realistic, right?
Right.
Because I could sit here and say, go take a walk for 20 minutes when you're feeling anxious, and but that's not realistic in the parenting world.
No, not at all, especially if the other parent isn't there.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So that's what's here.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
awesome. Explain the three pillars and what they're all built upon, if you don't mind.
Yep. So every module that I go through, there's about 12 right now, and I'm in a beta group. So I'm constantly tweaking it based on feedback from this first group
Oh,
and
that's
how they're going
great,
through it.
though.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
I love
really,
when I hear clinicians, experts, right,
mm-hmm.
say, I'm going to listen to the people who are actually doing it. I'm listening to my clients and I'm changing it as I need to meet their needs, right?
Yeah. And that,
'Cause
that was the most
that
important.
tells you are talking to someone who truly cares and wants to help, right? And has put their ego aside.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I think that was the whole point, was I want this to actually be like, I got one program and that was enough for like the foundation of like understanding my kiddo and their development and understanding myself and my own childhood and some of these implicit messages I received. And it goes on and on.
Mhm.
But the pillar system, so first pillar is the reparenting. So it's all about unpacking,
Now
not
explain
trauma work.
reparenting for some of the listeners who maybe are not aware of what reparenting is.
What that word is. Good question.
Yeah.
So I would describe it as taking care of the little kid in you, right? Like
Mhm.
your inner child. So we all have an inner child.
Mhm.
Because that's just how the brain works, right? It lays some of this foundational blueprint based on our childhood. And so we'll call that the inner child. And we got messages, right? Whether it was implicit or explicit, whether it was we picked up on messages like, oh, dad gets upset when I'm crying, or explicit, go to your room, we don't cry in here, right? Like that's a very clear message on what is acceptable in our house growing up. And so whether we like to admit it or not, that little kid, that little inner child is in us all the time.
Oh yeah,
Whether
absolutely.
it's in the driver's seat or not is a different question, but that inner child is there a lot in parenting moments. So the first pillar is about unpacking that. A lot of us haven't sat there and said, how did my family approach crying? What did my family ever talk about emotions? Did we ever talk about regulating ourselves or like anything related to feelings and the body sensations that go with feelings and emotions? So it's really doing a deeper dive into the parent and their childhood home. And then how can they soothe that little inner child, regulate that inner child that maybe never was modeled that. Because a lot of us weren't.
No, and it's not, I always try and make sure that individuals recognize that you can have a great relationship with your parent or guardian, and still recognize that they messed up, because we're all humans, right? And I, as a parent, I'm going to continue to mess up too. That doesn't equate all bad or all good, right? We can learn and do better, and that's not insulting your childhood.
Right. Yeah. Good point. It's not about demonizing our parents,
No.
right? Like every parent, I believe, does the best they can. And there's so many things that have changed, right? Like therapy is more talked about and accessible now, with social media and technology and the ability to access information and all that. It's like it's a different world than the generation
Absolutely.
before. And so it's never really this finger pointing blame at all. And we really don't even talk about the parents much, like who did that, right? Like, was it dad or mom? It was just kind of like, what was the messaging your little immature brain got? And I like to call that out too. Your little immature brain is immature, right? Like at 6, you make sense of it through a very immature lens, but that's still meaningful to know how you made sense of it, but it's not always accurate, right? Or factual.
Very true. Very true.
And so that also takes a little bit of that like demonizing parents, because we all come out with inner childhood wounds because of the immaturity of our brain at that time. Yeah.
Absolutely. I always tell my clients I work with in therapy that the only benefit I have as being a therapist is that I can tell my children's future therapists those moments.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
They're still going to happen.
Right. Like the one I use that really makes sense usually for clients is even the introduction of a sibling can be a childhood trauma for the older sibling. Parent didn't do anything wrong. Even when you introduce and give special attention, right? Like everything could have been done perfectly and it still could log or be imprinted in that kiddo's brain that was really overwhelming and emotional, and it rocked their world upside down. But that's no fault of the parent. It's just inner childhood trauma, right? Like
that's a really good example. I like that.
Yeah. So then that's pillar 1, reparenting. Pillar 2 is really just the brain science, but not like your deep dive into super technological, or like
we're not taking a neuroscience class.
You're not taking neuro, but I am telling you a few parts of the key player of the brain, right? Like the prefrontal cortex, like the amygdala.
Well, I mean, we do need to know how our body works. I mean, you don't get into a car and not know how to turn it on or how to turn on the lights.
Good comparison. Exactly. So we just talk about that, right? Like a lot of times I had parents saying like, I tell him to calm down, or I tell him to go do breathing. Okay. And then I kind of break down in that pillar, what part of the brain is running the show at that moment, and can they even access their breathing that they learned from Dr. Monday in therapy 2 weeks ago if they haven't practiced it, and like why that's not how the brain works. So that module is really geared at like, what is a realistic expectation for your child at that age?
I like that. That's important to think about that, right?
So important. And sometimes like what's realistic for your, like for you as a parent at that moment based on brain science. If you're just like, if you're dysregulated, then no, you're not going to remember what you talked about with Coach Julie, right? Like
No.
that's just not how the brain works if you're dysregulated. And so we go into a lot of like that, which I think is helpful for parents to understand.
I would think it would help a parent to feel less shame and guilt around their action.
Yeah.
And then be more open then to figuring out how to have a healthier interaction, because it's not them being bad or them as a parent being a bad parent. It's more of, I didn't recognize this part of my brain was taking over, right? And now I'm empowered to do different.
It kind of externalizes it a little bit, right? It's not, I am a bad parent. It's, oh, my brain was in survival mode at that moment. So duh, that's why I yelled right there. That's where I snapped. So yeah, I love that module a lot. I think it's, some parents love the brain science. Others at first, they're a little bit like, but then they, I think they end up really appreciating it after knowing that we don't go super deep into the different parts of the brain. And then the third pillar is, oh, the best part, right? The attachment piece. How do you co-regulate with your kiddo? How do you be their safe space, right? Like the psychological jargon of secure attachment, and how do you help them in that moment know that they're in it with you, you're going to get through it together, so that they can feel safe enough to calm down and then try something new. So we talk a lot about repair, the power of repair, because that's also something we often were not modeled growing up. And so how it's really not about never snapping. It's really not about being a perfect parent. It's truly,
that doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist, but truly it's the repair with the kiddo, right? It's the modeling accountability and saying sorry and owning what you're still working on.
Do you find saying repair is a little bit easier for a parent to wrap their heads around? I have noticed some of the pushback I get when I work with parents is that they grew up being told that their parent was right, or you don't question their parent, and they don't want to do that, but then they feel awkward in those moments of, well, how do I still maintain that I'm the parent and you need to listen, but I did screw up?
Yeah, there is a little bit of discomfort, right? And that just clues me in that it probably was never done for them, right? They probably grew up in a household that was like, I'm your parent, you do as I say. Respect me no matter what type of thing. So we unpack that a little bit in the reparenting work. And then we talk about a lot of times it's about the boundaries. And I feel like parents I come across, they don't have confidence in the boundary piece, right? And that's a big word. We could unpack it so many different ways. But I really go in depth on like, what is a boundary and how do you hold it? And how does that then let your child know you are the leader of the house, right? You don't have to not say sorry to be the leader of a house. I would actually argue that's like a great leader quality in maintaining it, but that's not what's going to get you respect. Saying, I'm your parent, do as I say, and I'm never wrong. That doesn't equate respect, because eventually they're going to become teens and eventually their brain is going to develop enough that they're going to put things together and they're going to know you're not always right. Right. So yeah, we just kind of unpack some of these implicit messages, explicit messages they had in their childhood. And then we talk a lot about being confident in your consistency and the boundaries you set is what communicates to your child that you're in charge.
Do you find that parents don't always recognize that it's boundaries that they're having with their kiddos, that that's what they're trying to form?
Yeah, I think a lot of parents, I mean, this day and age, we're busy, right? And things
Oh,
move
yeah.
fast what I come across a lot is parents just don't even have like the time and space to have ever thought about this or like talked about it with someone,
Right.
right?
We don't
Whether
create
it's, yeah.
this community ahead of time. We don't talk about it in high
Mm-hmm.
school. It's not a class, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So they're kind of like doing the best they can on the fly of the moment.
Mm,
Right. And a lot of times when we're doing it on the fly of the moment, we're more in like reaction, we're more in
right.
autopilot, we're more
Right.
in like that part of the brain that's just doing based on the past and familiarity rather than maybe like the logical response we want to have.
Mm.
So yeah, I think it's like they just have never really thought about it. And I don't fault them. Like,
No, but why do you think that is within? I mean, like you just previously said, there is so much more information out there. We're having such deeper conversations. There are so many different ways to access all this. And
mhm.
yet, we as society still, at least within the US, we don't have parenting classes. We don't have regulation classes. We don't talk about conflict resolution 101. Like that's extra.
Yeah. I I wish I had a simple answer. I mean, I don't know. Like I would love for this to be something parents have to do right before you
Oh,
have a child, like in the same
you have
way
to do
they go
driver's
over a
ed.
birthing plan. Yeah, like we practice how you're going to give birth, but then we don't practice when you leave the hospital, like what you're going to do with your kiddo. And yes,
I
that's
think
still
that's such a disservice that we're doing
such
to
a
each other.
disservice. Such a disservice. And I'm also not naive enough to think you take it one time and everything's just going to sink in. And like, it's because that's
No,
not how the
of
brain works.
course.
You need to
Right.
practice it. You need to repeat it. Right. But at least it's an intro, right? At least it's some foundation of, oh, okay. Tantrums are normal. Like imagine if every parent walked out knowing tantrums are really, really important. Like they're
Right.
not a
And
bad
it's not
thing.
bad if your kiddo has one and there's no reason for you to feel shame or think somebody's judging you,
Right,
right?
right.
Because we all know they have to have a tantrum.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so I don't know. I wish we had it. And then I think once it's not offered like in the early, then life just gets so
We
busy.
get so busy.
So busy. And then I think, yes, it's accessible now, but there's also so much information out there that I do think parents become overwhelmed at some point. Like everybody's trying to sell something, right? And it's like,
That's
how do
true.
I know if this one's legit? How do I know if this one's
Credible
reputable
or
or right,
yeah.
credible? And then say they get through that part and they purchase it. Now you have to have the time to actually on
Mm.
top of maybe working and
Oh,
however
yeah.
many kiddos you have and working out and taking care of
Mhm.
yourself. So I just think it gets harder and harder the older the kiddos get and the more fast-paced, busy the schedules become. And then of course shame, right? I
Oh,
think
yeah. It
at
stops
the end of the
everybody.
day, a lot of people in general, like it's hard to want to look in the mirror and like say, hey, maybe I need a little bit of help here or support.
Mm.
Because it's not going well, or like I'm really feeling alone in this.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so those are the biggest reasons.
I I I like your approach though of the idea of like that birthing plan. That why aren't we having this conversation and exposure to the foundation of just biologically these are all the norms, because you do that through your pregnancy, you do have a little like check off thing this month expect this month that, it's not that everybody has it the same way, but here are some expectations, some milestones, some things that are statistically more likely to happen so that you as a person who's never been pregnant before can understand what the heck's going on with your body, right?
Right, right. And even like in the beginning, because I know parents sometimes they'll have a concern and then call the doctor, and then the doctor will give that reassurance. Oh,
Mhm.
it's totally normal, right?
Right.
Whereas I would love, and they're starting to do it in primary cares a little bit more. I worked in the hospital in a lot of my training, and we would hand out at their like wellness visits for a month.
Mhm.
Okay, here's what you can expect to see kiddo be doing, and this is when maybe you should be concerned, and this is how you can build their language, right? Like but
Mhm.
I think that was more rare than it was common.
And it's also overwhelming at those wellness checks because you're trying to fit in time to get your kiddo into the doctor. Most likely you're back at work full time, juggling everything. And you
Yeah.
just want to make sure you get every shot or immunization or their height and their weight's okay. And so
Right. Yeah.
I remember being given some of those sheets. I don't honestly know if I read them.
Right. What do you, I mean, that's a good question. If you could reflect, what do you think would have been the best way to get you that information at that time?
At that time,
Mm-hmm.
probably something in the waiting room, like a the TV running a program or something I'm watching. I'm stuck in the waiting room. I'm not necessarily able to sit there and like read, but if there's something on the screen for me to look at, that would be helpful.
Oh, pretty
Because
good.
depending on the age, I might be like, don't touch this or let me
Right.
hold you, or, depending on the age. So if it
Yeah.
was right there in front of me, or even if it was like a PowerPoint on a TV screen in the doctor's office that said, age this will happen. You cannot stop tantrums, or even like positive messages to the parents in the waiting rooms. Like everybody has a tantrum,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
something like
Breaking down.
that would be very helpful.
Yeah.
Even quick little, like within your program, it would be cool to have like a quick little, like, I don't know, better lack of term, like a flashcard or something.
Like a myth buster almost kind of thing.
Yeah, like a myth buster or a reassurance to a parent. Your kid
Mhm.
having a tantrum doesn't equal you're doing something wrong.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Like a
Little
quick
things
one.
like that are quicker,
Mhm.
because like 0 to like 3, you barely have time to breathe.
Right. Right. Yeah. It's just hard. And then there's not a lot of community, I feel like.
No, it's very isolating as a parent, which
Mhm.
I have to say surprised me because I don't know why, but I thought it would be easier when you went to like those mom and talk groups, or you're in the waiting room with other parents, that you would naturally start talking to each other, but nobody does.
And I think that's a societal thing, right? I can't like
Mhm.
necessarily speak for every other society, but I like there's just this expectation on moms that I see where it's like
Mhm.
you do everything and you do it perfectly and you don't ever look like you're like losing it, and you don't ever
Mhm.
really like show that there's any sort of
Doubt.
weakness, quote unquote, right?
Mhm.
And so I think a lot of times moms are scared to say I'm struggling, right? Or like I need help, for fear of judgment from the mom sitting right next to her.
I
And so
couldn't agree more.
yeah, and I think that's what also was important in my program, was having a community of whoever is in the groups, right? Like their group
Mhm.
coaching calls, so that it can be normalized. Oh, this person's having the same trouble we're having at school or at home, because the problems are not really new. As like a child psychologist, I'm like, we're hearing the same things: bedtime, right? Drop off at school,
Right.
morning
Transitions,
routine, transition,
changes.
right? Like,
Absolutely. Yeah.
so if I could just have any parent that comes see me one-on-one hear that this is the issue that 20 other parents are having, I feel like that would disarm a little bit of that shame or holding back a little bit from asking for help. And then like a Facebook community, right? So it was important for me that there would be that community where they can make connections on their own, or like talk to each other about different issues that come up if there's a question. But I will say that's the part that parents are least open to initially. Isn't that interesting? So I know it's so important because,
and you know, we're all missing out on it, but to make us take that first step.
Yeah, they would much prefer a lot of times to come see me one-on-one.
Shame.
And that like group coaching piece feels a little bit like that's the one I have to talk to them the most. But then interestingly enough, when you ask at the end, like what was the best part, or like what was the group coaching calls. So yeah. But I think it's just unfamiliar, right? It's like breaking that stigma a little bit.
And that's hard to do. It really is. But the fact that you keep putting it out there and you're having these conversations are great, because it'll just make it easier for the next group then.
Right. That's the hope. Definitely.
Well, I think it's awesome and very much needed. I wonder if you could eventually partner with like a birthing center or something, or get some research going with like a hospital, you know?
I know there's like so many different, when we have to think about the marketing piece, I'm like, where would be the best? Like, I think schools, like PTAs kind of would be a great place to get this information out.
Be good at like a PTA meeting. But then do they have the PTA meetings when parents can attend? Because I remember this always pissed me off. The PTA meetings for elementary were during the workday.
Yeah.
And then the high school PTA was after the workday. And I'm just like,
take the whole day off.
I don't understand. How am I supposed to be involved and show up? Only people who don't work?
Yeah.
So, but I still think.
But would you show up on the weekend?
If I knew there was childcare and coffee, yes, because I could get a break.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, because if somebody's like, just come for an hour, we'll give you coffee and a donut, and we have childcare, and you can sit here, I'd be like, sign me up.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so true. I like that idea. And then medical, like the hospital visits, primary care.
I like the prenatal, because you, as an expecting parent, are in that more open mindset of saying, I don't know everything, and that's okay. And so it's okay to learn, because I've never done this before. So that might help to kind of like push that shame piece away before it comes up, because nobody's expecting you to know. That's why you're here.
Right. Yeah, you're willing to more accept any information and not as pressure that I understand everything, or I got it all together.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, good idea.
It's tricky, but I think it's so needed. And I commend you on putting all this together and putting this out there, because it's never easy to do that.
It's not, but it is life-changing. I mean, you probably can attest when you start to see like life through the lens of our nervous system and our brain, doesn't it change kind of every situation?
Oh my goodness. When I got certified as an EMDR therapist and learned more and more about the nervous system and how it shows up in different ways, I just, even in my career, look back when I worked in schools, I was like, God, I wish I would have known a tenth of this, because I would have approached the students different. I would have felt more confident. I would have been able to been a voice for them and been like, no, they don't know why they just kicked that person. Their nervous system's overwhelmed and they're in fight mode, and they truly don't know, and they're not being disrespectful. They shouldn't kick, don't get me wrong, but let's recognize what's going on.
Yeah.
And it's not them being disrespectful, they really sometimes don't know because they're in survival mode.
Yeah, they truly don't know, right? Like,
No.
yeah, that word resonates so much. I hear that one and manipulate so much from parents. And like I
Yes.
have such a reaction to
You
both of
you
those words.
and I was green and not a parent and working in a school my first year. And I totally know I said manipulate. Oh, that kid's so manipulative. No,
Mhm.
he's in survival mode.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
you as an adult, when you don't have some of that information
Right. It
and you're
can look
not
like
forced to
manipulation.
sit there and truly learn about the nervous system and the interaction, how the hell would you know?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. I don't fault parents, I think, and they just repeat probably what they've heard, right? Or what they
Absolutely,
were
of
taught when they
course.
were a kid. And so uh it's so necessary, but man, it is life changing on all in
It is.
all realms when you
Oh,
start to like look at the nervous system and understand. It just breaks a lot of shame too. I'm like,
it does.
oh,
And it helps
that's
you
why I
not
acted in that
to,
moment.
take it personal too. I
Yeah.
found as a parent, as an adult, it helped me to step back and go, oh, I know people say it's not about me, but really now I do believe it's not about me. And so it doesn't feel personal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And not having that feeling of being attacked or judged,
Right.
it just frees up your ability to be so much more present.
Yeah, I love that. That's exactly it. It frees up your ability to be more present and to make more space for a lot of
Yes,
other things. Yeah.
absolutely. Well, you're going to have to let me know how this continues to go. And if you guys take it to a hospital or any research or anything, I would love to hear any
Oh, thank you.
updates.
We will. Yeah, we'll stay in contact.
Awesome. And if somebody listening or watching wants to learn more about your program or get a hold of you, how do they find you?
Yes. So I sent you on my link. So hopefully you'll put that
I'll put
in.
them
But
in the
I would
show
say
notes.
the best way, the two routes I would recommend most, join the Facebook group and the link will be there. And then it's a free Facebook group for parents. So this isn't the one that goes with the Wired to Connect program, but I'm constantly putting out Facebook lives and free
Oh, that's
resources.
great.
Yeah. And then also getting on my email list with, I attached like a freebie for listeners to
Mhm.
get, and then you'll be on the email list, and then that will be communicated on if you want to get the Wired to Connect program.
Wonderful. And what is the freebie the listeners can get?
The one I offered with this, I have a few that float around, but this first one is like the 7 skill survival kit for tantrums. So really like the strategy base
Oh,
for
I love
helping
that.
kiddo in a tough moment.
Oh, good. I'm sure a lot of listeners who are parents, caregivers, guardians, heck, teachers, pre-K, like,
Mhm.
check it out. It's free.
It's free, so grab it. It's
And
free
and she knows
information.
what she's doing. She's not just on TikTok pretending.
Promise, no. But yeah, I think this is a great conversation, and I always knew I wanted to work with kids, but I didn't ever envision like solely really working with parents now more. Um, but I think it does so much good
You're
for
going
the
to have a
families.
bigger impact that way.
Yeah, yeah. And that was part of also, not to go on a whole other tangent. I was a highly sensitive kiddo, and that's what I needed. I needed my parents
Um,
to know how to um, make me feel safe in our home, to be honest, make my nervous system feel safe.
but that's powerful because you created something for that younger version of yourself that you would have benefit from.
Yeah, yeah.
I
And that was
mean,
like the
that
true
speaks
passion
really
behind.
powerful about it, right? That you know what it feels like to be that kiddo.
Yeah, yeah. And I just think there's so many kids out there with big feelings, and I don't want them growing up feeling like something is wrong with them or that they
Mhm.
need to like how you started it, right? Strong-willed is such a gift,
It
such a
is.
beautiful thing if we can cultivate it. And same with
It
high
is.
sensitivity. Um
Oh, I love the fact that my kids are very strong-willed. I love that they are both sensitive as well. And it is also hard as hell to balance it.
Exactly.
And I'm a therapist and it's hard as hell.
Yep, it is. But hopefully there's moments you can step back and be like, this is going to change the world one day. All right. That's like the trace, I think.
Yeah. Now, I always put everybody on the spot before we say goodbye. What is one thing you wish you could tell your younger self, or a piece of advice, or something you would tell your younger self that you feel would have helped you along your path or to keep going on your path?
I would say, Julie, your sensitivity is beautiful and is a gift.
Mm.
Don't forget that.
I like that. Validating and positive.
Yeah, because I think up until just last year, maybe 2 years ago, I've like actually been able to say, yeah, I'm sensitive, and not be like, no, I'm not sensitive. Right. Like I would always kind of put that away. But
And how you're owning it.
a lot with it, building this program and, really learning about high sensitivity. I truly feel like it's my gift now.
It sounds like it's been very healing.
Yeah, it has.
Well, then that tells me this is a very well planned out, thought through program that parents would definitely benefit from.
Definitely. That I wholeheartedly believe in. Any parent would benefit from it. So come join the Facebook group.
Well, thank you again so much for taking your time out today. Thank you to my listeners for tuning in to Notes to My Nervous System. If this spoke to you, or a parent or guardian out there that this would help, please share it, subscribe, leave a review. Unless it's negative, keep the negativity to yourself. I don't need to read that. And as always, please be kind to your own wiring.